Are you on thyroid hormone replacement but still feel awful? Or are your thyroid levels normal, yet you have classic symptoms? Do you feel like you've tried everything and don't know what to do next? Do you wonder how you can get to the true root causes of autoimmunity or functional hypothyroidism? Are you holding out for a natural way to resolve your symptoms? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Heal Your Thyroid podcast. I'm Madeleine Lowry, a neural retraining specialist and founder of Twin Cities Neural Retraining and the 12-week Thyroid Stress Solution program. I work with clients in virtual sessions to resolve the hidden sources of stress behind chronic health issues, including thyroid function. In this episode, I'm going to talk about my client Melissa and her experience with advanced neural retraining for her chronic fatigue, Hashimoto's, back pain, hair shedding, digestion, and sleep issues. Melissa's story is very typical of my clients, as she saw improvements on an emotional level, then a mental and behavioral level, and finally a physical level. If you are finally ready to address your thyroid issues in a new way, a mind-body way, then this podcast is for you. I'm going to connect the dots for you so that you will understand the real reasons you still have thyroid problems despite everything you've tried and what you can do about it. Could neural retraining be your best next step to thyroid healing? Take our quiz at tcneuralretraining.solutions to find out. So let me tell you a little bit about my client, Melissa. She's trained as a nutritional therapy practitioner as I am, and she found out about my work through our professional forums. She was also familiar with the work of Dr. Eric Balcavage, a thyroid expert, and listened to his podcast, the Thyroid Answers podcast, where I was a guest on episode 88. Melissa had been under the care of several holistic doctors for Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and each had helped her some, but she was still looking for solutions when she heard about my work. Her diet was impeccable. She was exercising regularly and trying to mitigate her stress. She had just read Dr. Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief, and was intrigued by neurofeedback and EMDR, but was also interested in a faster method. She was quite self-aware and recognized that some of her thought patterns might be holding her back from recovering her health. Let's hear Melissa explain how we selected topics for our sessions and the impact or lack of impact they had on her in the moment.
I would say I came to my first MAP session a little bit unsure of what I wanted to address as far as specific memories or negative emotions that I felt were holding me back. I didn't have a specific trauma that really stood out in my mind. I was kind of trying to think, well, what is it exactly? Or not that it was just one thing, but what are the things that I need to work on? And in fact, I'm the person, if I did the adverse childhood experiences, my score is 0, So, but I knew there were things. So I felt like, Madeleine, you were helpful in helping me kind of sift through. I put some ideas out there for you, like, I think I want to work on this. And we did work on some of the things I put out there, but you had a really good way of asking me questions and trying to, kind of help me think what are the issues that we really need to address here? What are the things that are holding me back? Where are the negative responses kind of built up over the years?
So notice that Melissa says that she didn't have a specific trauma to work on. She had taken the ACEs assessment, Adverse Childhood Experiences Assessment, and her score was 0. And yet, as you will see, our work moved the needle for her in terms of her thyroid health. In the first session, we usually take a very discrete topic, a single painful emotional memory, for example. For Melissa, this was a memory of her husband's cancer diagnosis. This is what she had to say about the sessions that we did. Keep in mind that we are having this conversation a year after we finished working together.
What I remember is I didn't notice a big shift in the session. For me, it was like over time. And that was the first one we worked on. But I remember a couple of other things that we worked through in subsequent sessions that had bigger shifts for me. One was a relationship and my, some negative emotions that even though the relationship was in a good place, at that time, there were things from the past that would get triggered, and those negative emotions had built up over time. That was one. And then the other big one was negative emotions and responses that had built up from living in a cross-cultural experience situation. Mine in particular was in the Middle East as a woman for 30 years. So that was a lot. That was a lot to work through. Yeah, so those I remember the most because they were long-term situations where I had built up a lot of, negative emotions and responses.
Melissa describes what being in the sessions was like and how the shifts from her work became noticeable as she observed her reactions to the same situations afterwards.
About the sessions themselves, they were very relaxing. I didn't, sense any shifts in the moment or I didn't have any physical responses in the moment of the sessions, though I remember feeling very relaxed and cared for, maybe even soothed is a word I would use. They felt very healing, even though I didn't feel big shifts. For me, when I noticed the shifts were when I would come back into those situations that in the past had elicited the negative responses, and they just weren't there in the same way anymore.
So is there like an example of that maybe you want to talk about?
There was, I can think of one situation with my husband, and, he said something or did something that in the past would have triggered a negative feeling about myself. And I just didn't have it. And the next day, I told him, I said, you know what? That's just okay. I mean, I didn't have a response, and I feel okay about myself. And he said, I noticed that you didn't respond the way you usually do when I do that or say that. And so he noted it as well. Yeah. The other situation was, in a cross-cultural context, different anxieties I had, specifically around language and not feeling adequate, not feeling understood or heard because I couldn't communicate fully in a second language the way I wanted to. And I was able to re-engage in some of those cross-cultural relationships with women without that feeling of inadequacy, even though, practically speaking, I was still somewhat inadequate. My language didn't take a huge leap forward, but those negative feelings of inadequacy and not feeling heard, good, and dissipated.
So as Melissa says, the sessions were relaxing, soothing, but there were no big shifts during or just after the session. I want you to understand, especially after hearing Dr. Kelly's more dramatic story in the last episode, that this is much more typical of what my clients experience. The changes are more subtle, but they are noticeable over time. The take-home message here is that there don't have to be flashing lights and fireworks during your sessions for there to be a benefit. That is not a necessary part of the process. Melissa recognizes that her husband's comments don't trigger the same feelings of inadequacy. She notices that her interactions with others don't trigger the same negative feelings about herself either, even though nothing has changed about these situations. Her husband still says the same triggering things, and she still has trouble expressing herself in a foreign language. Yet the emotional toll all of this takes on her is lessened. She is changing, gradually, over time. And that alone is reducing her overall stress load and will have positive effects on her health in time. I want to emphasize this point because your level of stress is not just related to life events. It is more influenced by your habitual responses to those events, and those responses can be changed. In a session, as we ask the subconscious mind to neutralize painful memories, we are also having an effect on other related memories, emotions, beliefs, and behaviors we've developed in response to similar experiences from the past. Those kinds of shifts are noticed as we encounter similar situations in the future.
Yeah, I remember, I think I had listened to I can't remember specific podcasts, but, maybe I'm just going to have a dramatic shift, the next day or the next week. For me, I think it was a little bit slower, but I did see it come. When I'm trying to think of what month it was this summer. My husband and I were in upheaval again because his cancer had returned after a very short remission. And so we made the decision to leave our overseas home and come back to the States. But I was seeing my practitioner in Istanbul, and I did some blood work for him. And for the first time in, I don't know, maybe three years, my thyroid numbers were all in range. And this was in the midst of a pretty big I thought that was really significant. He was encouraged. They still weren't at an optimal level, but he said, "No, look, all your numbers are in range for the first time." So I was like, wow. And this is probably in the middle of, one of the biggest stresses in our life. So that was very encouraging to me, and, confirmation that, yeah, it didn't happen really quickly, but it was, I was continuing to heal, and the physiology was following the MAP sessions and the work that we had done on emotions.
So please notice that though her current life stress is high, her thyroid hormone levels are much improved. Her husband's cancer is back, and they've made the decision to move back to the States after 30 plus years of living abroad. These are huge stressors. As Melissa says, they were in one of the most stressful periods of their lives, but by changing her response to stress with advanced neural retraining sessions, she is coping much better than she would have in the past. And this is proof that you don't have to quit your job and move to a desert island to lower your stress levels enough to reboot your thyroid. Nor do you have to wait until a stressful period is over before you begin neural retraining. Let's hear about the other changes Melissa noted as a result of her sessions with me.
Yeah. One of the things that we had talked about was lower back pain. And I won't say that I never experienced any discomfort in my lower back. Every once in a while there's some tightness, but I don't have any lower back pain anymore. that was really the only other physical thing I can think of. Emotionally and just, I just sense an opening of who I am. Things that I was kind of had closed off in my life that I just, wasn't open and wasn't free in to express myself or to, communicate with others. I guess openness, that's one word that I would use to describe how I feel about my life now as compared to before the MAP session. A lot more openness in every area.
What Melissa is describing is a move towards authenticity, an important topic that will be expanded upon in a future episode. Stressful emotional patterns, mental patterns, or behavioral patterns are all incompatible with being authentically ourselves. And I would suggest to you that good health follows authenticity. In this clip, Melissa describes the positive effects on her sleep and digestion.
Yeah, sleep has been great for the most part. Every once in a while we had a little bit of a stressful event about a week ago where our shipment coming from overseas was just not, the shipping company wasn't responding, so we thought it was lost. but it's found. But anyway, so but overall my sleep has been very good, not disturbed. And also digestion has improved. And that wasn't something that happened quickly, but it's in a place now where it hasn't been as long as I can remember. So it's in a good place. Yeah. But it did take, I would say, a few months after I completed the MAP session. And I remember you telling me, sometimes it takes some time for the physiology to catch up with the changes in our brain. And I'm glad you told me that, because I was, kind of expecting it maybe to be more instantaneous or, a couple days later or something. But I'm glad you encouraged me to be patient, because, I did see some big shifts in both those areas that you just mentioned, the sleep and the digestion.
Again, patience is rewarded. Improvement in physical symptoms lags behind the emotional and mental shifts. That is because it is the emotional and mental shifts that set the stage for healing. When we are less affected by daily stresses, we can be in the parasympathetic mode, otherwise known as the rest, digest, and heal mode of the autonomic nervous system, and health continues to improve long after we've completed our sessions. This is not like taking a supplement or a medication. The positive effects are retained and can be protective against developing new symptoms and conditions. And finally, let's hear about the effect of our work on her hair shedding. This is a very triggering symptom, especially for women, and I have done many sessions on hair loss for my clients.
At the time, it did start to slow, the hair shedding, after the MAP session. However, as we did go, I don't know, that seems to be one of the physical symptoms that came back this last summer as we were making this big transition. And so I've tried not to be stressed about it. And just, I've been listening to the tape that you made for healing and emotions. Mm-hmm. For a while, I hadn't been listening to them very regularly, but I did start listening to them again recently. And I don't know, this might not really relate to the MAP session in particular, but I was reading something the other day, and I just thought, somebody said that the area that is that where you're feeling pain, or and I thought, well, I'm not really feeling pain, but it's paining me that my hair is falling out. So, just put your hand on it and appreciate that part of your body. And wow, I that really touched me, and I did that, and yeah, it really felt healing. It really did, and it's flowing compared to where it was earlier this summer.
So her hair shedding slowed during the course of our work, but that was a symptom that worsened again with the big stress that she was under. And this illustrates another point, that symptoms may improve, but life keeps happening, and another period of stress may exacerbate the symptom again. Though you may be able to reduce the severity and duration with the resources I provide, such as the audio files for healing and emotion that Melissa mentions. You can hear my whole conversation with Melissa from December 2021 in my other podcast, Flourish with Neural Retraining, episode 49, which you can find on our YouTube channel at TC Neural Retraining. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to try advanced neural retraining for yourself, I invite you to join the Heal Your Thyroid, the Mind-Body Solution community on Facebook, where opportunities to join group introductory sessions or to join our master classes are announced. If you like what you are hearing, please listen again and remember to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your review is the best way to raise awareness of this information, and I greatly appreciate each and every review. Content of this podcast, copyright 2024 by Twin Cities Neural Retraining. Music by Barbara Ben.